Hey everybody, welcome to Big Valley Living. Thanks for stopping by.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm JJ.
You've probably noticed that the cost of everything is up at the grocery stores, at the gas pumps, and everywhere else, restaurants, everything. And we started making our own bread just because it's so much less expensive and it lasts a lot longer, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things we really like when we have burgers or sandwiches are pretzel buns. And I made some a few weeks ago and made an accident when I prepared them, and they were super good. So then I did them the right way, and they were okay. So we decided we're going to show you our way of making pretzels, pretzel buns, and pretzel rolls, all with the same recipe.
So all over the U.S., different things are in short supply, and here in the Big Valley, we're not really seeing that yet. I don't know if it will or not, but I like to be prepared. So probably the biggest thing that will be the hardest, the thing that will be the hardest thing to get is probably flour. So if flour is running short in your area, that may be the hardest thing to get at this point. But it's always about being prepared.
So we picked up some bread flour, and I think what we'll do right now is we'll get to the actual recipe and tell you what we're going to do. Just yesterday when I was over at the grocery store picking up some meat for this evening, I dropped by the pretzel roll section knowing that we were going to be making our pretzel rolls just to kind of compare what it would cost me to actually purchase them already done. I'd say about 4 months ago, you could pick them up for $4.59, and before that, they were just under $3 or under $4. And pretzel rolls were for about $5, which is still kind of spendy, but now they're $7.29 for 4 little rolls. That's one of the driving forces, again, of us doing this. We still want to eat, we still want to enjoy good food, but it's not sustainable to be spending that kind of money on home-cooked meals.
And I'll be honest with you, these are way better than what you get at the store. Yeah. I will put these rolls up against any pretzel bun at the store. They're really good, so let's go check it out.
Thanks. All right, we're going to be using our KitchenAid mixer today. You can completely do this by hand. So in order of appearance, we have 1.5 cups of warm water. About 110 degrees is about where you want to be. We have 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. It's really working nicely. We have 2 teaspoons of just white sugar. Oh, look at that, just started eating it right up. Now I'm going to add 4.5 cups of bread flour, and I'm going to add it all at once. Just kind of going on both sides here. On top of the flour, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of table salt. You could use other salt if you wish. And the final ingredient in the dough is 4 tablespoons of softened butter. You can use salted or unsalted. We prefer to use salted. Doesn't make really much of a difference. Now we're going to raise the stand. We're going to raise the bowl. And we're going to go ahead and turn it on 2, well, 1 for a minute, and then 2 until we have everything incorporated. Once it turns into a ball, I'm going to show you what it looks like, and at that point, we're going to go ahead and time the mixer for 5 minutes to knead. If you are doing this by hand, you'll want to knead it for 10 minutes at that point. And I did that for 20 years. It's not really that bad, but hey, a mixer just lets you go do other things while it's working for you. We'll see you in a second. All right, everything is incorporated, and as you can see, the flour has pulled away from the side of the bowl, and that's what we're looking for. It's nice and clean. And then at this point, this is where it needs to be kneaded for 5 minutes in your machine. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer, and we're going to knead this, and then we'll move on to the next step. One important note, if you are using a KitchenAid mixer, do not knead over a setting of 2 whenever you're doing this. It's very, very important. It's in your instructions and owner's manual, but I just want to call that out. 5 minutes, and oh my goodness, it is so smooth. It's just perfect. So I'm going to grab this dough ball and meet you over at the other counter. This is fun. This is so fun. Make sure your hands are clean. And then what you're going to want to do is just kind of form this into a nice little ball. This recipe is like fail-safe. You don't have to add flour or anything. It's wonderful. So I'm just kind of pinching the ends a little bit. I learned this from Heather, the Needy Homesteader. And this was her pretzel recipe until I changed when we actually do the little boiling part. And that's the change that we make. But man, they get so tender and they last longer, don't you think, JJ?
Yeah, they're really good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now what we're going to need to do is make sure that this is coated in a little bit of olive oil. And then we're going to put a nice little towel over the top, tuck it away in a warm place. I'm actually going to put mine on top of the oven and let it rise for approximately an hour until it doubles in size. Ooh, put a little bit more than there. You only need like a teaspoon of oil, but that'll be fine. And there it is. And we're going to go ahead and cover it up and come back. And oh my gosh, you guys, it already smells good. So see you in a few seconds. Now while that bread's rising, let's go ahead and get a pot of water. I have about 3 quarts of water in here. And then we're also going to be getting some baking soda. The ratio is about 1/3 of a cup of baking soda per quart of water. So that's where we're at now. Let's okay, and now that we've got the dough rising, what we're going to go ahead and do is get a pot of water. Here I have about 4 quarts of water, and we'll be putting in about 1/3 of a cup of baking soda per quart of water. And that step will be coming up shortly. So right now, I've got my water on, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it up so that it'll warm up. It has been an hour, and here's the big reveal. Ready? Whoo! We have definitely doubled. So now what we're going to do is just deflate it a little bit. If you have any aggression, you can go ahead and punch it, but you really don't need to punch it. And we are going to start dividing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back into a ball. And the main reason is that it's just going to be easier to visualize it as I start dividing it. I'm going to use this cutting mat, this pastry mat here that I have, and start dividing it up. I've also lined a cookie sheet here with some parchment paper, and I've done 2 because the rolls are going and the hamburger buns are going to have to cook longer than the pretzels. If you're just doing one similar size bun or roll, or if you're doing all pretzels, you'll probably only need 1 cookie sheet. Time to divide. Divide and conquer. Okay, so I'm going to cut it in half, roughly. Then I'm going to cut it in half again, roughly. We can measure it out if you want to go that far, but I'm not. Now, for buns and rolls, I'll go ahead and I'm going to cut that quarter in half and another quarter in half. And then for the pretzels, I'm going to cut in half and half again. I know it's all kind of confusing, isn't it? But trust me, it's worth it. Look at, they're already puffing up. Oh my God, this is so cool. So let's see, half and then half again, roughly. And there we go. So these are going to be our pretzels. I'm going to put them off to the side and we're going to start with the buns. And we are going to do exactly what we did before. We're going to fold this in on itself and kind of make just... Okay, so I've started taking one of those triangles, and what we want to do is just kind of twist it, and then you're going to roll it around a little bit. You just don't want a bunch of open and loose corners, okay? So we're going to take it, and if you have to get a little aggressive, then that's what you do, right? Okay, now, I don't have a bunch of cracks and crevices and stuff. So at this point, I'm going to start rolling it around, and this is the reason I like to use one of these mats, because it will end up helping you to just get a nice smooth surface. The better the surface is smooth, the better moving into the whole process. I'm going to do one of each roll or bun and show you, and then I'm just going to speed it up for the next step. So this is going to be a hamburger bun, okay? And I'm just going to kind of pat it out. And yes, you do actually want to make it somewhat flat. I'd say this is probably maybe a ½ inch high. And there's a little bit of bun, you know, there's a little bit of that. Don't worry too much about it because it's not going to come apart. So that's going to be a hamburger bun. And now we're going to do a sandwich roll. And these sandwich rolls are going to become... Okay, now we're going to make a roll. And the thing about the sandwich rolls is that they're just going to be a longer version of that and narrower. And these rolls, oh my God, these rolls are going to be for meatball sandwiches. That's what's for dinner tonight. So, as you can see, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just kind of bringing in the edges. Man, this dough really puffed up. It did a nice job today. It's pretty warm in the valley, so I think that's probably why. And now I'm going to roll it again. Roll, 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 roll. Roll, 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 roll your roll gently down the stream. Sorry, that's bad.
You crack yourself up.
I do. Okay. That one had a little bit too many cracks. And I want to show you real world. I mean, you know, you're not going to get this all like the very first time you do it. My guess is that you have to do this at least a dozen times before you get the hang of it, you know. Okay, so I'm going to roll this again and roll it, roll it, roll it. I am happy with that result. Now, for the sandwich rolls, it's just, the only difference here is that I'm going to kind of lay it out a little bit longer. And I am hoping that we get 2 or 3 good-sized meatballs on each one of these rolls. That's my goal. And because we are going to have meatball sandwiches, that's going to be good right there, don't you think, hon? Yep. They're not going to be huge. If you wanted a bigger roll, obviously, you could just do something a little bit different here and maybe have smaller discs to start with, bigger discs to start with. And take a little bit more from the side. That might work out better. And do a little tuck, tuck, tuck. And roll it out. Okay. Maybe want to get myself a rolling pin for this part. I've only made rolls once, guys, so this is my second attempt at these. I do think that they should be longer, so I might change my mind before we're done. Pretzels. Pretzels, pretzels, pretzels. So now with this, we're going to roll out a snake. Let me get it so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Now, we want this to be fairly thin, actually. And I'm kind of working from the center out. And then if it gets a little thin, then I'm going to come out here to the edges. That's working best for me. You can do your own rolling the way it works best for you. There we go. So let's see. Yeah, this is pretty long, but you'll see why in a minute, because there's a lot of tucking and folding and whatnot. Okay, so these are homemade, guys. So unless you're going to start a business, it's okay to have them just a little bit imperfect. Now, I'm going to come up and over like this, and I'm going to go ahead and pinch those edges together, and I'm going to pinch a little bit on the bottom side as well. Okay, and you can still work on the shaping as you need to or want to. That's a little bit fat right there, so I'm going to try and even it out. And we're going to come back over that because you want your little triangle. And pinch these together maybe at the 3 sides, okay? That'll help it keep its shape when we go to do the water bath and give it more of that regular pretzel shape. You guys, these are so good. They are amazing, and they keep for days. Okay, so I'll do one more pretzel for you. Hey, there we go, there we go. I'm still sitting here thinking that I'm gonna re-roll those rolls for the sandwiches because they're pretty small. I mean, it would be like having a slider almost, tiny slider. Okay. Ooh, this one's turning out even better than the one before. So you just, as you start doing this, it's like playing with Play-Doh. But as you start doing it, it just starts coming together better, okay? And they're gonna rise again. So this is not too thin right here. I'd say it's probably about the width, well, I have fat fingers, but it's about the width of a finger. Okay.
Or a big pencil.
Or a very big pencil. Yes, one of those pencils you get at Disneyland. Okay, and up and over. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And pinch those edges in the center so that they stay together when we go into the water bath. And you can see these bottoms, okay? Feel free to just pinch those a tiny bit. Doesn't have to be crazy though, it's only enough to keep them steady. All right, cool. I'm gonna finish these up and I'll see you in a second. Okay, I just had to think about this for a minute, and JJ had a good idea. So I'm taking the same roll. I did not change any amount of dough that I'm using for the sandwich roll. And I'm rolling it out very much like I did. I think I did this when I made the rolls the first time, actually, didn't I? And go ahead, roll it, give it a little pinch, roll it again. Yeah, that's what I did, I remember now. And then, once you're happy with your bottom seam here, okay, then what you're gonna do is flatten it out. And again, these are going to rise again. So they'll be almost double that size once they're finished and they've risen and they've baked. So this, I would say, let's see, how big are we here? Almost 18 centimeters, about 7 inches is how long this is. So that's going to be a good roll. I'm going to pat it out just a little bit more so it's wide enough for the meatballs. Nice thing about making your own meatballs is that you can customize your rolls to the meat that you're making or your meat to the rolls, depending on what comes first. So one more benefit to making your food at home, you have a little bit more control over how everything comes together, and that's always nice. You can have a lot of fun with it, actually. You know, you could make little sliders out of these rolls for a family get-together or something if you were just serving hors d'oeuvres. Could you imagine how happy your guests would be? Okay, nice. Our water is boiling, so I had about 4 quarts. It's come down a tiny bit, so I'm going to end up putting in 1 cup of baking soda. Don't put it all in at once because it's just going to see how it rises, and you don't want to splash it all out of the pan, right? There we go. I might put in a score more than a full cup, but see how it's getting kind of foamy up there? That's kind of how I judge it and say, all right, there's enough in there. Oh, that's what happens when you put too much in at one time. There we go. It's kind of fun, isn't it? Okay, so that's boiling. And for the rolls, we have to score them. So what I'm going to do is start with those, and then I'll do the pretzels. What we do is I'm using a spider, and I put the bun in there. I like to do it kind of upside down first. And you're going to do this for 30 seconds on each side. We don't mind doing 2 at once, so that's what I'm going to do. Make sure that, you know, it kind of remains at a good boil. I'm going to reset my timer and set it for 30 seconds. I'll stop it early on this one. If you go over a little bit, that's okay, but I would definitely say make sure you hit that 30 seconds. See, so now the bubbles are starting to come up again. That's what I'm looking for. And we'll flip them in just a second. Is there anything else I want to tell anybody? Oh yeah, let's talk about this for a second. We like pretzels to be as let me turn it off. Alrighty, so we hit our 30 seconds, and now I'm going to flip them. And you can see them puff up when they're in here. It's pretty cool. Whoa, okay, be careful. And we like our pretzels to be as authentic as possible. So we went on Amazon and we got this pretzel sea salt. And it has exactly what you expect, like if you're at the fair or something like that. So you can keep that in mind. You can also use regular sea salt. I would just get the flaky type because it'll just have that more authentic feel to it. So we're going to pull these out. And they're really wet and just like, oh my gosh, you know, that's too wet. No, it's not. Don't you worry about that. And this is my happy accident right here. I made a mistake and boiled them before the second rise, and then I did the second rise. You guys, this is the way to go. I'm telling you. You can try it both ways if you want, but when you do the turn on my timer. When you do a second rise before putting them into this water bath, they tend to come out a little drier and they didn't stand up for more than a day or two. I'm talking about the rolls themselves. The pretzels also didn't stay chewy like they're going to be. So this is why I prefer to do it this way. Now we're going to flip them. Yep, we're going to flip them. And then we're going to do our second 30 seconds, and I'll show you what we do with the buns. There we go. Just let it sit there for just a second. Now these rolls are also going to get a little larger, so make sure you leave ample room between them. And the next thing we're going to do is score the buns and the rolls. Now what you need to do is score. This is called a lame. It's really just it's an old-fashioned razor blade with a handle, okay? And you're going to go in about 1/4 inch. On the buns, to get a traditional look, we're going to do a crisscross applesauce. And on the rolls, I want to show you, make sure you see it. On the rolls, you're going to do slash, slash, slash. Now, we're going to put these off to the side with a cover on them, with a towel on them, and they're going to rise again for about 30 minutes before we put them into a 425-degree Fahrenheit oven. Okay, my pretzels are getting a little dry here because I'm taking a little longer than I probably should. So I'm going to dump in let's see, 2 decent-sized ones and a little guy at once. Ooh, there you go, buddy. Okay, so same thing, 30 seconds on each side. And these also are going to go onto a parchment-lined cookie sheet. And once they've rested for about 30 minutes, they're going to go into a 425-degree oven as well. I think it's fair to say that these pretzel shapes and sizes are all over the place, but you know what? They're going to taste just as good. So what we're going to do is just cover them up with a nice little cloth right here and let them sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to show you this. The rolls were like kind of flat when we put that on there and when we started doing these, but look at those. They've already risen a lot. So as soon as our oven is up to 425, I'm going to start the buns. All right, you know what, guys? If you want to clean your drains or keep them clean, I would throw a little bit of white vinegar down the drain for a minute, and then take this boiling water that has the baking soda in it and chase that vinegar. It will help to keep your drains clean. And we have risen for our half hour. And as you can see, they have changed in size greatly. So I have whisked 1 egg, yellow, the yolk and the white part together. And we're just going to do a light brush and get in those grooves right there. It'll just make a nicer product at the end of the day. And try not to get too much on your parchment paper so that you don't have a little bit of scrambled egg on there. And we're going to go ahead and do this. And then we're going to do the pretzels. And the difference between the buns and the pretzels is that there's going to be pretzel salt on the pretzels. JJ, do you want any pretzel salt on your buns? No, me either. Okay. So we will not be salting these buns.
Although we have in the past.
Yeah, we have in the past. I prefer them more like a bun. I don't need that on there. You could put on some of that everything but the bagel seasoning on these, though. That might be kind of good, or some sesame seeds or something. But we're just going to keep them like this tonight. And now we'll go ahead and give these pretzels a little glaze. And then, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of salt. I'll leave a couple of them unsalted for people like my friend Renee, who doesn't like to have salt on her pretzels. And It's also healthier for you, I guess, if you don't have a bunch of salt in your diet, right? But there's not a whole lot of salt in this per se, although they did go into the baking soda, so there's going to be a little sodium in there, I believe. Okay, but this is going to be a really nice glaze. Yeah, as soon as these are done, we're going to put them in the oven. The pretzels will be in until they're golden brown, probably about 10 to 15 minutes max. And the buns are going to go in for 15 to 20 minutes. About halfway through, probably at about the 8 or 9 minute mark, I will switch I'll bring the buns up to the upper section, and I will put the pretzels down closer on the bottom, and that way everybody gets kind of the same amount of heat in the oven. Now we're going to do the salt, and I really don't want to have too much on any given pretzel, so I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it with my fingers, okay? And if you want them saltier, go for it. This salt really does make all the difference, and it just gives them that whole feeling like you're, getting them made at the fair or wherever you get your pretzels, hot pretzels. And I'm going to salt these larger ones, and I'll leave about 2 of them without, just in case Renee stops by. All right, there we go, and into the oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Yum. Well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? So we ended up with a good amount of pretzels themselves for snacking, and a couple hamburger buns. You could do it however you want to mix this up. We just wanted to show you the versatility of what you can do with this actual recipe. We had 1 cookie sheet on like in the upper 2/3 and 1 in the bottom 2/3. And at about the 8-minute point, we switched which shelf each cookie sheet was on, and we also turned them around for even browning. Sometimes it's gonna, be right at like 15 minutes, and sometimes it's gonna take 20 to 25. I don't know really why. Maybe it's our oven. But anyway, look at these, and they are like so tender. So once you take them out of the oven, get them onto a wire rack as quickly as you can so that they can cool off. And these have been out for what, 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
So these are hot pretzels.
And if you just wanted to have huge pretzels, you could do that. It's all about what you want to do. They break apart really easy.
Can you like zoom in on one of those when I break it? That'd be cool, because you have that guy. Okay, watch this, guys. Watch. It's so soft and chewy. So try it. It's not hard. You're going to save yourself a ton of money and still have some nummy food for you and your family. And how about the snacks?
They're really good.
Cool. Thank you for visiting Big Valley Living. Please share this with your friends and family. Comment below if you have tried this recipe or if you have any questions. What else? How about like, share, and subscribe. And what do they do after they subscribe? Hit the bell.
Ding, ding, ding for notification when we come out with videos.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
See you later, everybody.
Be kind.
Pretzels.
Right.